Hello, welcome to Introspection with Jeff. This is a channel to understand and empower yourself. I deal with substance. I want you to improve yourself every day. Today I'm dressed as Samantha. It has nothing to do with the topic at hand. The topic I do wanted to talk about is personality types, specifically the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types, or MBTI. Although I haven't taken the test, I do believe I am an ENFP, which stands for extrovert, intuition, feeling, and perception. Let me explain, first of all, some background on these 16 personality types. They were developed by a mother and daughter team. Bell Myers had gone to the research of Carl Jung, who's a Swiss psychologist. He had written a book in 1921 called Psychological Types, and he had four principal traits that would be dominating in a personality type: sense, intuition, thinking, and feeling. So what the Myers-Briggs team did was that they took that and they developed it a bit further. They developed 16 personality types by adding introversion or extroversion and judgment and perception. Now this creates 16 personality types. What I mentioned before as ENFP, in my case, is the standard order. The first letter begins with your extroversion or introversion style, your extroversion or introversion preferred trait, as the Myers-Briggs team would say. The next is whether you're intuitive, whether you rely on your intuition or you rely on your senses. The next, thinking or feeling. And the last is judgment or perception. Judgment meaning that you would prefer to have matters settled, as opposed to perception, which would mean that you keep your decisions open. Now, you can go and look up the 16 personality types. There are variations. There's an Enneagram. But I wanted to examine my own self, and I wrote down these personality types. These personality traits of an ENFP, and I thought I would go through them with you to see how closely they match, and you would get to see more about me, about myself. Now, I haven't taken an actual test. They're very expensive, but I did borrow a book from the library. This is what got me started. Before this, I had assumed that everybody had essentially the same personality, well, not exactly personality traits, the same ways of perceiving the world. And I borrowed this book from the library. I don't remember. I think it was something like Color IQ. It was all about what career you should go into and selecting the best career that suited for you. And I took the short quiz at the end, and I got green and gold. And my mom took it. She didn't know what I got from it, but she came up with the same thing, meaning that green was my dominant color, and and gold was my less dominant color. um, the author of that book said that for more information to go deeper into this, to delve deeper into this, you should look at the 16 personality types. So that's what I did. All right, let me run down. First and foremost, they're creative. They're spontaneous. They embrace big ideas. This is, again, ENFP. They embrace big ideas that reflect a sense of hope and goodwill. It's very much me. I believe I just imbue goodwill and a creative, spontaneous spark. I'll get into that. I'm confident that ENFP describes myself almost to a T. I went through I hadn't taken the personality test, but the Myers-Briggs personality test, but I did look through all of them, and I found that this ENFP describes me the closest of all of them. They're spontaneous. They embrace big ideas that reflect a sense of hope and goodwill. They're spontaneous. They're supportive. They radiate positive energy. They're playful. They have an upbeat sense to life. Upbeat positive energy. They value imagination, and if you've seen my earlier videos, you can tell that I'm very imaginative. I'm very creative. Those are my dominant traits. This value of imagination, when I'm doing something very imaginative, that does provoke a sense of enthusiasm within me. I enjoy starting new projects. I'm open-minded and curious. I connect emotionally with others. Now, there are some weaknesses and strengths that I'll get into later. I looked this up in Wikipedia, which is the easiest way of looking this stuff up to quickly write down these traits. It said that although they can be very, I don't want to say very extroverted, although they can be amongst other people and enjoy being with other people, they have a rich inner life. They ponder deep, meaningful. I wrote this very shorthand. They value the deep meaning and purpose in life and its significance, which definitely explains me. I'm sorry. Everyone and everything in their eyes is connected. They want to share what inspires them. And I remember shortly after the experience, well, just in general, but specifically, I remember after the experience with Punky Brewster, the girl that I've mentioned, again, that's not her real name, and I tried to build up a relationship of some kind with her. I remember trying to contact past acquaintances, and I wrote letters and tried to call them and talk with them and build up friendships and try and fill that void. And I remember in the letters, specifically, to a couple of people, a couple of former classmates, I would write all about what I was interested at the moment. I wrote about Egyptology, and I wrote about physics, theoretical physics, and I wrote about history and transformers and all sorts of things that were interesting, Kabbalah, the Bible. So this definitely fits me. I want to share what inspires myself with others. They're very perceptive. particularly about moods and feelings. That's one of the things that I thought everybody seemed to be, but maybe not. Um, and in case I forget to mention this later, please drop down in the comments whether you think you'd be an ENFP. Have you looked into the 16 personality types? And if so, what personality type do you think you are? Have you taken the test? How expensive is it? Um, and have you come across other personality type, other um, other personality theories? Um, they're excellent at communications. Um, let me see. I'll mention, just to give you more of a sense of what types of jobs they would be interested in. Um, Nonprofits, of course. Education, probably because they like to, they enjoy learning about concepts and sharing what they know. Um, Customer and public relations. I haven't had much experience with nonprofits. I don't. I understand the altruistic intent behind nonprofits, but I um, I haven't really gone into that. I want to make money. I mean, I want to build myself up. Um, Education. I did consider going to school. I would want to teach at the professorial level. I wouldn't really want to teach children. I guess because I thought of that. I thought of this. Um, I don't think I'd really be interested in teaching children the kindergarten and the elementary school level. I'm very interested in my passions, and if I chose to be a professor of a particular field, I would want to um, I'd want to teach at more like a college level, some place where the students are better prepared and they grasp what I'm teaching, and they're more motivated. Another thing about college, they're more motivated, I suppose, I would presume, because um, college isn't a guarantee. You have to have money. I mean, of course, there are grants and so forth, but um, these are more motivated people who haven't decided to quit schooling after high school. Um, Public relations, customer relations. I've certainly had a long background. Sadly, a lot of my background has been in customer relations or customer service. I like the label customer relations better. Hospitality. I suppose that would be, well, of course, hospitals. That would be, I don't really have an interest in that very much, but I can see how it would fit in an ENFP type. I suppose that would be hotels and so forth. Um, Media and entertainment. That's been my passion. Uh, the first movie I recall seeing in a movie theater, I had seen movies on TV before that. Of course, I grew up on I Dream of Jeannie and The Sound of Music I saw on TV. But the first movie I saw in the movie theater, it was would have been in 1983 during the summer. It was Return of the Jedi, um, and that made me a small Jedi. Um, but I wish I wish that I could have made entertainment my profession. I know it's very cutthroat from what I've heard. Um, I I think it embodies a lot of these because I see it as a chance to share what I know, um, and I like drama. I like studying people. I guess that connects with it too, right? Um, Perceiving others' moods and feelings. Because when you write a screenplay, you're designing characters, and you need to portray accurate characters. You need to portray people that an audience member would look at and say, I know that person. I know somebody just like that. And there's a bonding effect that comes between an audience and what they're watching on the screen. Um, and again, I want to share, like Steven Spielberg, for example, and George Lucas. Steven Spielberg drew from his own personal experiences. Divorce, for one. If you've seen The Fabelmans, I highly recommend. If you've seen The Fabelmans, you'll know that he went through. It's based on it, based on his own life. Um, he went through a pretty difficult time in terms of anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic sentiment. Um, he went through. His parents went through a messy divorce, and there was an adulterous affair in there, so forth. So I've noticed those, and other people have pointed out too in his films. So he is sharing his own. It's kind of a visceral, cathartic experience, as film and TV tend to be. Social media, communications. Again, these are possible career paths that an ENFP would likely be interested in. And I noticed something. They don't work well in an environment, a workplace environment, where everything is the same. And I've noticed that about my structure. Now, I've noticed that in my own life, my own work life, if something is routine, if there are some operations that I know very well, that I've done very well, very often, I can feel quite comfortable, for example, doing computer work, doing routine computer operations and so forth. I do enjoy variety. I don't know about this. As I'm thinking about this, I don't know. I suppose, well, to be honest with myself, regardless of what this says, I'm comfortable doing, it depends on what jobs I've had, I suppose. I'm comfortable with routine job duties and tasks because I know them well. I can just do them without much thought behind them. And I suppose I'm confident that if I have been doing them well, I can keep up my confidence. But I do like spontaneity and creativity and all those other things. I wonder how that would work as a film director or as a screenwriter, particularly as a director, because you have to know camera work, you have to know all sorts of technical aspects, and those would have to be routine. Those would have to be second nature, while you also devote the other part of your brain to the creative aspects, and not only creative aspects in terms of storytelling, but creative aspects in terms of problem solving. I'm sure problem solving comes up a lot in film as a film director. Now, weaknesses. What I covered were mainly strengths, but weaknesses. They struggle with self-discipline and consistency. I don't think that's hampered me too much. It may, I don't think that's hampered me too much. Intuition, here's another one. Intuition leads one to read too much into others' actions. I've noticed that about myself. Let me move back to this Punky Brewster experience. At the time, she didn't tell me a lot of information about what was going on, why she wasn't communicating with me, why. Well, she didn't tell me a lot about what was going on with her. So I remember definitely thinking a lot and worrying, being concerned. I don't want to say, well, yeah, I was worried being concerned about why she was behaving in this way, why she didn't respond back, why she seemed to smile and be accepting and at times really encouraging, and then at other times she was completely silent. Um, People pleasing, want to keep the peace. I definitely embody this type, this trait. I want everybody to be happy, to be comfortable, um, and to keep peace. I wonder if I am really over people pleaser. Um, Overly accommodating, that would go along with people pleasing. Overly optimistic. Could you be overly optimistic? I know I'm very optimistic. Um, my favorite TV show has been Star Trek since about 1986, or 1980, latter half of 1986. So, and that's a very optimistic show. I I tend to be optimistic. In fact, I'm instinctively optimistic. Um, Let me see. Um, Nagging feeling that major areas of life aren't good enough. That definitely hits home with me. Um, as you might have, as I've mentioned before, um, I haven't been able to go into the chosen profession. Go into a profession that's related to my passions in life. Um, and I'm also still single. Um, I devoted an entire video to my bucket list sometime back. I remember one was wanting a girlfriend, wanting a relationship, Jewish girlfriend specifically, wanting a career in the career interest that I'm in, my passions, wanting a home, I came up with 10 different items in my bucket list. And I do really feel many times, in fact, I'm still working. This is one of my current issues. I'm working through this nagging feeling that major areas of life aren't fulfilled. I suppose maybe because, speaking as a prospective ENFP type, um, that I want to live life to the fullest. Um, I think that's why it hits home so much. Um, feel deeply. There's another one. Feels deeply or uninspired when single. Um, it's not that I don't feel uninspired when I'm single, because I have been single all my life. But I do feel empty. And as I said before, um, with the Punky Brewster experience, I felt very empty, and I was trying to fill that void. Um, so oh, it also mentions guard some recommendations for ENFP types. Guard against investing too much time. Um, I'm sorry, investing too much of one's sense of self in relationships. Um, Rarely, that the ENFP type rarely holds back when interested in someone and tends to fall. This, again, going back to Punky Brewster, uh, tends to fall in love and fall hard in love. Um, Trust, devotion, and passion they feel are real. Trust, devotion, and trust that the passion and the devotion that they feel really is reality. I believe that connects with me. Um, and when a relationship fails, they worry the devotion has been misplaced. Now, going back to um, Punky Brewster for a moment, um, after that first experience, um, I I had graduated high school about that same time, and I remember the first 2 years really felt brutal in terms of me um, being single and trying to figure out. That was my period, still trying to figure out what had gone wrong. Was it my fault? Was was there something in the relationship that wasn't work? I mean, was it her? Was it me? I don't know. And so I still don't have all the answers. Um, but fortunately, she's called uh, the spring of last year, and she answered some of them. Um, now, uh, before I get into some famous ENFP types, I wanted to make sure that I haven't skipped over anything. Oh, by the way, I got my teleprompter. I haven't set it up yet, but I do have it. I just haven't set it up yet because I was so eager to get into this video. Um, all right, I think I've covered everything. So, why don't I share with you some ENFP types, and you can go look yourself on the internet to find ENFP types. Now, I do caution that um, sometimes this is guesswork, and um, an ENFP type. I mean, if the people judging which famous person is of which personality type, if they're familiar with the theory and in the different personality types, I would imagine that they would be pretty good about judging which type is correct. But I want to warn you that these could be off. It's a matter, I think, of opinion. I wonder, I think the those who have actually taken the personality type test, I think those are the answers are kept secret. So I think all of these are a matter of judgment. Okay, Robert Downey Jr., Robin Williams, certainly. I absolutely see ENFP type in him. Quentin Tarantino. And as I mention these names, please consider what professions they went into, because Robin Williams, certainly, he was a stand-up comedian, and he went into television. He started Mork and Mindy. Very enthusiastic, very lively, but he also ended his life some years back. I think he wrote a note. I don't know. I believe he wrote a note, but um, that's, that may be a good, that may be a strong, familiar type for an ENFP, that they may be lively on the outside, spontaneous and creative. They do have a rich inner life, as I've said before. And of course, he became a before, but he became a movie star. Notice which movies he went into. You can kind of divide them into two groups. There are the comedies, the straightforward manic comedies, and then there are the more thought-provoking, thoughtful dramas. He did both fields. He did Awakenings and the Dead Poet Society, and he also did can't think of. He did Mork and Mindy, of course. I'm sure you can think of comedies he's been in. I kind of blanked them out of my mind, but more manic comedies. There was a movie based on Happy. I want to say Happy Gilmore. That's the wrong movie. Happy. Oh, nuts. It's based on. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's based on someone who went into the medical field with the premise that, I don't know, I think he had some medical training. But he went in, and his basis, forgive me if I'm really distorting this, he might have been a great, great doctor with a lot of medical background. The way it was portrayed in the movie, he had scant background, and he went in. The premise was the same, that part of recovery deals with someone. What part of recovery requires that someone feel happy, and consequently happy. Patch Adams. That was the name of the movie, Patch Adams. So he would come in dressed as a clown, and he would do something to liven up his patient's mood. And I think there's something very true to that. Of course, the movie that Robin Williams starred in took it to very extreme dramatic effect. But the movie was Patch Adams. And I don't know whether it kind of rides between both the serious, dramatic, thought-provoking roles and the more comedic roles. So anyway, all right, so that was Robin Williams. Quentin Tarantino, Russell Brand, also an actor, comedic actor. Will Smith, Meg Ryan, Ellen DeGeneres, who's also a stand-up comedian. Now I get to these two fictional characters. There were more fictional characters, but I didn't write them down because I wasn't really familiar with the show. But Willy Wonka definitely seems like an ENFP type, very lively. He's in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, based on the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Also, the character of Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. Interestingly, that whole show, that whole show is based on the real Carrie Bradshaw, who had a blog, I believe. All right. Now, I've covered that, and I've given up my pretense of speaking in a feminine voice. Sorry about that. I'll get there. I hope you like my visual presentation enough. Kind of compensates for it. Let me see. I've covered that. Now, this hasn't gone without detractors and people who think the Myers-Briggs personality type whole concept is bunk. They say that it rarely. Okay, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. Where did I put? Oh, they say that there's confirmation bias. I can see where there would be confirmation bias, particularly people who get into it who don't know the personality types very well. They make judgments and snap. They make snap judgments. It's kind of like a horoscope, reading a horoscope. They see a little bit in one zodiac sign, personality type, and they think, "Ooh, that matches me." So, without reading the rest of it, without reading the other zodiac signs, and this is something interesting. You remember at the beginning, I mentioned that I had taken the test, and it gave the results of green dominant and gold less dominant. That pointed to an I think it was INFP type. And at the beginning, I wondered if maybe I was an introvert. But looking at it more deeply, I tend to be exuberant, lively around other people. I want to be a part of other people's lives, and I feel excited. And I'm very outgoing and friendly towards other people. That doesn't seem to, that and other aspects. I don't seem to be an introvert. I think I'm more of an extrovert. I know you can't really tell in videos like this, but you might want to comment below if you think I'm more of an extrovert or more of an introvert. And also, please throw your own throw your own perceptions of who I am. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Throw your own perceptions of which personality type might fit me the best, if it's not ENFP. But going back to the confirmation bias, I had gone through all 16 personality types and identified this one as fitting me best. Now, confirmation bias, poor validity. That would mean that. Does that mean that it doesn't really apply to reality? Poor validity and poor reliability. Those two go kind of hand in hand, side by side. Basically, I suppose what it's saying is there's confirmation bias, which I can certainly see, and there's also lack of evidence, basically. A lack of independent, I guess, double-blind evidence to support it. But nevertheless, the one factor that really persuaded me was that ENFP fits me very, very well. So that having been said, I hope that you look into it yourself, read up on all 16 personality types and the premise. Now it's been developed a little bit further, but I gave you the basics. In final closing, I'll close this with a phrase that I like to use in every video: find your hand in the universe. And what that means is that it refers to something that a Bible scholar named Stan Tenen had been intrigued by. He was intrigued by the idea that the Hebrew letters were shadows of your hand, and he developed an entire concept, which I want to devote an entire, like a very long, an in-depth documentary type video about. Very, very elaborate. But he says that the hand connects us with our own sense of self, and so I liken that to astral travel. Stan Tenen didn't get into astral travel. I'm saying that I've heard that in astral travel, people who go into altered states of consciousness, that the hand can help connect you with reality. So with that in mind, if the world that you're living in, if the experience you're living in doesn't seem to match reality, if it doesn't seem comfortable for you, find your hand, and it'll lead you back to your sense of connection with yourself, who you really are. And again, as I say, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, I suppose give it a thumbs down, but I would hope you would give it a thumbs up. And if this is your first time, welcome. Please subscribe to my channel, where you can see other videos just like this. Again, as I said at the beginning of this video, it deals with substance, and it's meant to let you understand yourself and empower yourself, enrich yourself in life. Because to my knowledge, we only have one life, so let's make it a good one. See you in the next video.